The thing about the life that I lead is that it is contingent on living very different identities. And the work that I do right now in Life of Audacity is a couple of things. One is identity change. How do you change identities in such a way that you are not living one definite future, but can keep changing the futures to suit who you are? I started off, normal, going to school, almost going to law school, and suddenly my family lost all their money and I had to become an actress. I've been an actress. From there, being an actress, I met a man on Match.com, got married, had an incredibly beautiful marriage for 12 years. I then I started my own company. I went to tech school. I came back. I shut down my company. I then I went and did organic farming on a Greek island. Came back, became a journalist, then did interaction design, became a fintech consultant, did startup consulting. I write now for PwC Strategy and Business Magazine. And I also now created a company called Life of Audacity. And the entire idea behind Life of Audacity is to take the experiences of my life, of being so many different people and living so many different realities, and teaching those skills to people all over the world. I've been teaching these workshops in different countries. Part of this is identity change. It's also about how do you design the lifestyle that you want, and how do you pick and design a future really, really consciously. To start this off, I would like to give an example of an idea. In NLP, which I absolutely love, there is this idea that we all have a map of the world. And your map of the world will end up defining your reality. Now, when people think about the idea of a future, time, how do people think about the future? Can someone tell me just your first idea about time? Yes? Passes so quickly, okay, so time passes. It's always there, okay? Time is currency. That's such a scary thought. And what about the idea of the past, present, and future? How do you think about it? It's interconnected, okay?
Try for now, but keep settling for past.
Okay, wow, that's more profound than I expected, but okay. But the idea is that when people think about past, present, and future, they see it on a line, right? You generally see it as past, I'm in the now, and that's the future. Now, that is called linearity. And everybody, we've been trained, it's in our systems, it's how we think. It's like, oh, it happened, it's now, and the future. Quantum physics, or just in general theoretical physics, has gotten to a point where they've realized, and sorry for this bit of geekery, but they've realized that that is a completely wrong paradigm of time. Time does not work like that. Time does not go in a straight line. Time is not linear. In fact, if time is anything, it's extremely dispersed. So the past, present, and future, yeah, that's the same expression I had. The past, present, and future is not in a straight line. It's in something that might be called the block universe, where my past could be your future, where what you call this present is actually still coming for somebody else. Now, why does this matter? It is the most freedom-giving, the most incredible thing that has actually being revealed to us. Why? What if the future is not a point to get to, but a series of infinite possibilities? What if the future is a series of infinite identities that you could, from this point in time, choose and design? Most of us live like we're coming from a past and we're going towards one particular future. You know, you grow up, you go to school, then you go to, you do your MBA, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and then you have a house, then you have a car, and then you die. Or maybe you do a little thing between, the car and the dying, but that's the gist of it. But what if it did not need to be that way? This became the experiment of my life. I decided that I was going to live a life that had no connection to each other. Every year, I change what I do. I go into completely different careers. Every year, generally, I've been changing where I live. Every year, I decide that I'm going to be a completely different persona. And to me, that is the most exciting future imaginable. So how do you do that? One, you change the paradigm. You change the paradigm from there is one future to be lived to there are infinite futures, and I'm in control of the one that I choose. The second one, how do I change identities? The way that I have chosen to work with changing identities is something called archetypes. Has anyone heard of archetypes here? Yay! Okay. What I'd like you guys to do is to shout out some of your favorite superhero characters, anybody you can think of who's inspired you. Who? Wonder Woman, amazing. I like you so much for that. Who else? Batman, okay. Sharat, I want to hear yours. The what? The Phantom, okay. Okay. Tom and Jerry, okay. Okay. Gladiator, nice. Johnny Bravo, okay. It can be an actress, it can be a fairy tale character, it can be anybody. And the thing about this is we believe that all of these characters are outside of us. We believe that whether it's science fiction, whether it is fantasy, whether it's magic, that it exists outside of us. We read a book, we finish it, we go, oh wow, that was a really nice story, and walk away. Have you ever considered that your life might be the science fiction? Have you ever considered that your life can be the Harry Potter world? I still remember one day when I was finishing my thesis, my master's thesis, and I looked at it and I'd always been saying, damn, I wish I went to Hogwarts. Somebody later told me, your school is called Hogwarts for adults. And later on, I realized, wait, I do live in a magical world. Ever since then, I've made magic a part of my world. And what I do is I start using archetypes to create new magical futures. Now, I'm not here to tell you something rational or logical. You've had enough of that. You guys lived that. I'm here to say there's a different way to live. This different way to live includes bringing in the magical into your life. Every year for the past 6 years, I've been using magical archetypes to define the new future that I live. 6 years ago, I had shut down my startup. I was really unhappy. I was lost. I didn't know what to do with my life. So I went on a little bit of a self-discovery journey. I was living in Europe. I was just bumming around. And I was thinking, okay, what do I do now? And I started getting this image of climbing mountains. And I was like, who's that person? I don't climb mountains. I don't do that stuff. But I could see this woman, and she was climbing mountains, and she was bold, and she was wild. And I was like, I want to be that woman. And I said, okay, what do I do? And I started reading up about the goddess Artemis. Artemis is the Greek goddess of the wild. I started playing with her, energy. I started playing with her images. I started kind of, emulating her, reading everything about her. And the more I focused on her, the more I started saying, this is what I want, the more I started imbibing that character, the more it started becoming real to me. 6 months later, I end up living on a Greek island doing organic farming, where I'm climbing these mountains barefoot, where I am in the wild, and I'm saying this is not a coincidence. So I decided to test that theory out again. The next year, I called Aphrodite. No, I'm not going to tell you what happened there. After that, I could see the phrases are like, you need to know me a lot better, and a lot of glasses of wine for that one. The next year after that, 2 years ago, I decided it was time for Kali. Why Kali? Kali destroys and recreates. I decided I wanted a whole new life. So I said, okay, I'm going to work with Kali's energy. Now, you do not have to work with goddesses. You can work with any superhero character that calls to you. If you are being called to be really, really courageous, if you're being called to, do something that has a lot of adventure, find an archetype that calls to you. Use that archetype in your everyday life. Draw the images. Work with these rituals. And I'm sorry I cannot cover this stuff in this because it's actually a longer workshop, but I'm giving you a quick guideline of how these things can work. And start building an entire world around these archetypes. So when I called Kali, suddenly something said to me, you need to leave and go on this entire journey. I went on this 5-month journey where I dropped every notion of what it meant to have a normal life. I went from Croatia to Greece, then suddenly I was in New York, and then I was in San Francisco, in the wild in California, and all I knew was that what was being asked of me was to let go of a life that I knew and just step into a whole new world that I didn't know. I was terrified. What this allowed me to do was creative destruction. You destroy your old life over and over again so you can create the new. This year, I decided, wait, what do I really want? And I suddenly had this image of the kind of company I wanted to create. Who do I call upon? Oprah Winfrey. And I was like, what is it about Oprah Winfrey that really inspires me? Oprah Winfrey had the ability to capture and transform an entire mass of people around the world. She could completely transform and change people. So how do I work with an archetype? You take somebody like that, you study them, you really, in NLP they would call it modeling. You study them, you read everything about them, you read their autobiographies, you decide that this is the identity that you want to channel. You are not going to become them, but what you're doing is, and this is what sports coaches will do really well. They'll be like, me as Suvi cannot be that person. Suvi comes with her baggage. Suvi has been told by her parents, you have to be a good Tambaram girl, you get married, you have children, you do this, right? She cannot be the powerful entrepreneur, millionaire, out there affecting women and changing worlds. She can't because she comes with her own baggage. But maybe Suvarchala can. Maybe Kamakya can. Maybe anyone that I create can. And so what we do is to say, I'm going to step out of this old identity and step into this new identity. And it's a very visceral, physical process. There's this baseball player's name I don't remember, but he had anger issues. And he apparently was taught, he said, every time I was out there in the field, I would let my anger get the better of me, and I would foul, and I would foul, and I would foul, and I had to sit out the games. He was then taught how to change identities. They asked him, okay, who are you really drawn to? And he found somebody who was a mass murderer on some television show. But this guy was cold, this guy was ruthless, and he said, I want to be like him. I want to be cold and ruthless there. He started working with that archetype until he could step into the field. And since then, this man has been the highest achieving baseball player at the certain time that he played. And he could only do that after he could leave behind his old archetype, the guy he grew up with, the guy who grew up in the Bronx, the guy who was bullied, the guy who got into fights. He was not that man on the field. So the one thing that for us we all need to figure out is, who do you want to be next? Who do you want to become? Where do you want to go? Are you allowing your past to determine who you're becoming? Your family, your history, your peers? Or are you willing to step into one of those superhero shoes that you've talked about, that you've read about? And one of the biggest ways to do this, for me, is something I call Letter from My Future Self. So the past 3 years, I've been writing letters from my future self. And everything that I've written has come to pass. Every single thing. Now, who is this future self? This future self is my potential self. If there are 1 million potential selves, or let's say 10 potential selves in front of you, one person is the person that your parents are saying, go get married, have children, and just, live your normal life. That's the ordinary you. By the way, I'm not saying that in case anyone wants to get married and have children, please do it. But if that's one self, Maybe there's another self who wants to be a travel maniac, who wants to go and have adventures, who wants to go and make films. Maybe that's another potential self. Maybe the third potential self is to be a monk. Maybe the fourth one is to be a spy. Now, you can be any of these people, but you have to choose your next one. You can still choose the others later, but you have to choose your next one. So in order for you to choose the next one, you make a conscious decision and you write a letter from that future self to your present self. And there's a longer exercise that you have to go through, but this small exercise is this. You go to this future self that you can imagine, and all you do is say, describe the life, this ideal life that you are living at this point in time. What does it feel like? So if I had to describe it and I had to say, okay, 5 years from now, I'm having this huge effect on people. This is where I'm living. I expect to be living between 3 different countries. I expect to be having my own show. I expect to be able to be completely financially free. And I see this reality so clearly. And you write to your present self and say, this is my reality right now. Now, why do you write from your future self and not to your future self? When you write from your future self, that person has become real. And so I would very quickly like to ask some of you people, if you want to take a piece of paper and write a few lines from a letter from your future self. Yeah? Can you just give out the paper? Yeah. Your future self to present self. So, yeah, no, you have to write. So imagine you're already in this future self of yours. Suppose you want to be the next great entrepreneur. Yeah. You're telling your past self, which is now, this is the life I'm leading. This is what it looks like right now. This is how much I'm earning. These are the people I'm surrounded by. Right? This is my daily life. I wake up, I do this, I do this, I do this. I live in this wonderful house. I have incredible friends around me who inspire me. Make it really detailed. Because then, when you go back and read that every single day, that becomes real for you. Happening right now, and what you're doing is you're pulling the future into your present. And that's one of the strongest, most transformational processes I have ever found. It's not it's a combination of things. It's. I'm not selling my workshops right now. It'll come up. I'll let you guys know. Do you guys have pens and? Yeah, you can do that. You can even write it later. But the reason I'm saying just put down something now is for you to have an anchor. To say, I want to write a letter from my future self to my present self. I want to create an identity. Or you can take down markers. I want to create an identity of somebody that feels impossible to me right now, but I will make real. Who is that person? You can even just write down points of who this person is to you. Yeah. So I would say 3 to 5 years is a really good one. Gives yourself enough time to get feedback, but also enough to know that it's not too far away. I'll give it to you. And really aim high. Like, go for the thing that you think is really difficult. Yeah. Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah. I did that. I did that because I was doing an experiment on myself. So, like, if you're setting a target to be an entrepreneur, I can't do it in 1 year, right? So it's a longer journey. Mine was different. Mine was, I want to live in a different country. I want to change careers. I want to have different experiences. So I'm trying to be different people every year. No, but even that is a part of the equation. I create that for myself. your financial life should never be an excuse for you to not do this. Like, this is a part of creating this alternate future, which is to say, I've heard people say, no, yeah, I don't have the money, I don't have the time. That's not an excuse. You have to build this persona that you want to be into this future. And that's why I'm saying archetypes are so important. Who you pick as an archetype is really important. Like a Warren Buffett, you pick that. You pick, like I pick Oprah Winfrey. You pick people who have gotten there and have very strong principles on how to get there. Things that you can model. In NLP, it's called NLP modeling. So that's why you read about them. You understand their strategies. I'm sorry? How do I earn? I have 3 different projects going on at the same time. I write for Tech and Business magazine. I run workshops and events around the country. I do startup consulting. And yeah, right now those are my 3 things. Yes? I don't know, but you can take my number or email. Yeah. suvarchalaa@gmail.com. Yeah. Suvarchala Narayanan. Yeah, perfect.
Suvarchala, LAA, right?
LAA@gmail.com. Yeah. Sorry guys, I would have loved to have actually done the entire exercise and workshop with you all. We didn't have time today, but this is something, for me, it has been the most powerful experience ever. Like the sense of freedom that you get from knowing that you can change your reality as much as you want, and that you can be multiple people every few years, and that nothing is out of the realm. Like as soon as you bring that kind of paradigm into your daily reality, anything is possible. No, I mean, you can even change that. If you want to be the person who believes that it's fated, it will be fated, right? So you can be everything from someone who believes in fate and have that happen to you to someone, honestly, I believe in magic. I get up every day believing I live in a magical world and magical things happen to me. And they do. If you want to get up and live in a world which is hostile and dysfunctional, that will be there for you. Pick your archetypes well. Know your outcome. Know who you're aiming to be. Sorry. Come closer, no? Someone has a fault. Neurotic fault. You mean the archetype? Yes. Very nice question. Yes. It is a double-edged sword, and it's a great thing that you brought up. So the way to work with archetypes, and suppose, for example, you want to work, let's take Elon Musk, brilliant man. Now, Elon Musk has many different sides. On one hand, you want to emulate his creative genius, his risk-taking abilities. You do not want really to emulate his relationships or the way he leads, right? What you do is you focus on the part where you are drawing on qualities that you want. So when I focus, for example, on Tony Robbins, okay, he's one of the people I take as my archetypes. I want Tony Robbins' energy. I want his vitality. I want his ability to transform people. I want his ability to be able to come up with solutions to anything. I do not, however, want his entire huge Americanism and the way that sometimes he can be really harsh. So you can choose which part of the archetype you're drawing from. So really be careful about when you're looking at your archetype, what qualities do you want to emulate? And you can have multiple archetypes. Right now, I use Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, and there's a lady called Esther Perel. So you can use multiple ones. They do not contradict at all. I'm choosing what I want to pick from them. You can choose superheroes. I use Galadriel from Lord of the Rings all the time. I love her. She's magical for me. Who else have I used lately? Wonder Woman is somebody that I absolutely recommend to a lot of women. You know, Shakti, like the goddesses. The goddesses are great because you know very clearly what they are. right? So if you're going to embody Kali, be very prepared to walk into darkness. Be very prepared to do shadow work. Be very prepared to have your life, the rug being taken from under your feet. That's a long story. No, it was all part of it. Again, it's the journey that you decide it's going to be for you, right? So you can choose to have a very logical journey. You can choose to have a very magical journey, but you decide at the end what it's going to be. Yeah? Does anyone want to share anything? Like, has anything popped out for anyone where you're like, okay, this is a future self? Yeah? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes. Writing and picking an archetype. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in a few years of time, it's not that it just popped up right now, but then I have had a feeling for some time that I would be living on a farmstead and have my own farm, because I love experimenting with a lot of plants, and you know that I do it. So, with animals, surrounded by birds, and right now I've started taking the designing part of my company, and in my future self, I see that I handle a design team, and Rajesh is free of that.
And I hope you find a really good archetype to step into that role, to be a businesswoman, to be a designer, right? Anybody else want to share? Yes?
Suvarchala, right? That was amazing what you said, and it's really inspiring. And to me, what I got out of what you said, and something that I will incorporate in my life, is that archetype that you said. Because I'm currently in the process of changing careers from technology to be a filmmaker, and my first film is coming out soon. But again, growing up, I think I didn't have an idol that to follow. So it's always been an experimental, exploratory journey through life. So what you said brings that idealism, what you can pick out of people, that's really important. Because if you idolize one person, you, like somebody said, you imbibe all the negatives also. So thank you for that. So I think I know whom I'll pick, a couple of filmmakers, and try to follow their journey. And I think that'll really help. So thank you for that.
So great to hear that, and I'm glad. There's also, I don't want to go into too much, but there's also the idea of creating a mastermind. And that's something that I use very regularly. They don't have to be real people. But what happens is when you create this virtual mastermind of people, like I have Quentin Tarantino in mine, I have Gandalf in it, and it's incredible how when you need a certain wisdom from a certain angle, you will get exactly what you need if you have more of a varied mastermind. Yeah. Someone...
Oh, the poor mic. I feel bad for it. So I started looking at my future self, and I've been blocked creatively for the past few years, and I want my future self to take what began as a trickle and turn it into a big bang.
Nice. Okay.
So, my only issue is that archetypes. I don't really identify with fictional people or real people.
Okay, so then, you know what? Make one up. There's no limits. You can even use animals. I once had to come up with something to use a euphemism for my next stage. And I was like, I can't find anything. I used a combination of the flamingo and the eagle and call it the flamingo. I wanted the grace of the flamingo with the power and the top-down vision of the eagle.